Welcome to Building Better Businesses, an ABA podcast. Learn firsthand from business owners who built successful ABA businesses. Utilize proven techniques and strategies to help your practice thrive. This is Building Better Businesses, an ABA podcast with Jonathan Mueller.
My guest today is Rick Loewenstein. Rick is a leader who leverages the power of strategic relationships to build consensus, motivate, impact growth, corporate culture, and success. His executive leadership career spans private and nonprofit healthcare, human services, and the food industry. Rick was formerly Chief Strategy and Growth Officer at Centria, a national ABA provider. And at Centria, Rick helped to expand access to services for families, growing from 300 to 3,000 kiddos served. And he's now founder and CEO of Team Game Advisors. Welcome to the pod, Rick.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will say I love the name of it, Building Better Businesses in ABA. To me, that's another way of saying building outstanding relationships with every stakeholder that you have. So that's pretty much the common theme you're going to see, probably through our conversation today. But congratulations on launching this, and super psyched for it.
So thank you, Rick. Well, I want to tee this up with how we met. And honestly, the fact that we met is proof that serendipity exists in our world. So let me just recount briefly. A couple of years ago at the Autism Investor Summit, there was literally a speed dating event. I'm not kidding you. Speed dating event. I've never done a speed date before in my life. Married 12 years, been with my wife for 20. But point was, it was matching up potential investors and organizations. We weren't looking for investors, but we said, hey, let's go learn more and talk to people. And kid you not, listeners, the very first conversation, I sat next to Rick, who was working with a
family office
equity firm.
Yeah, a family office at the time.
That's right,
Yep.
a family office.
Yep.
Who was thinking about the ABA field, and yet within 30 seconds of interacting with Rick, I was like, dude, I need to be a part of this guy's world. So that's my side of the story. Rick, fact check me on that. I remember it right.
Completely accurate. And I don't know. I'm not totally sure about the science of love. Okay. For me, it's worked. My wife, Dana, and I have been married 40 years we'll be married 40 years in August. So I don't know the science behind it, but I guess I know it when I see it. And this was like an instant, meeting you and Will was an instant respect, trust, and a connection. And then I think, we ended up connecting probably 4 or 5 times. We spent about 6 hours together during a very short conference and just hit it off. So everything you said is completely accurate.
It was a platonic love at first sight, maybe is the right way to put it. Well, yeah. Here's the thing, Rick, here's where my mind goes. Honestly, there's a lot of intention and planning that I feel has to underpin every act of serendipity. Right? Things happen for a reason, but there's so much work that sort of goes in to create that. So tell me, what are 1 or 2 recommendations that you'd have for a small ABA business owner to help so they can create their own serendipity and build their network?
Yeah, I would say I would be business agnostic. Okay. It doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter the organization. It's building this relationship. And so for me, I once had a mentor say, you need to be in a position to be in a position, meaning you have to be in this position to be ready to be in the position. And so, my advice really is no one's untouchable. Okay. They just aren't. Okay. And earlier in your career, the better. Begin to build your network. Okay. People are always willing to give advice and listen. And that's how you build your connection and put yourself in that position.
because it can almost feel like a luxury to go out and have these conversations. And even if you're not a small business owner, like, you're working as a BCBA or as a, operations manager, whatever you are, if you feel like a luxury, how do I have the time to go do that? But if I'm hearing you right, it's like, take every phone call and every chance you have to meet someone, whether they're a payer or your local pediatric practice or another ABA owner, take the chance to build a relationship. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Kind of a cute story. My son is a level 4 USA hockey ref. He lives in Denver, and he wrote a great LinkedIn post about the connection between refereeing ice hockey and business. And one of the things he said is, every time you step out on the ice, it's an opportunity to make an impression and build a relationship with stakeholders. Okay, stakeholders here are coaches, players, your fellow official, parents. A little tough, youth sports, but the point being is, it's an opportunity to build that relationship. And so, again, and nowadays with COVID and remote meetings and things like that, I recall a meeting you and I and Will had, and I mentioned Monica Ose at Open Minds, and you're like, "Do you know him?" I said, "Her," and I said, "No, but let me give it a shot." Next thing you know, we had a meeting with her. Everyone's accessible, Jonathan.
I distinctly remember that, and we've been able to build our relationship with Monica because of that. It's like,
it's great.
One of the things, of the many things, Rick, that I admire about you is you are always willing to pick up the phone. You don't care, and I think what I've heard from you is, hey, the worst that can happen is someone says no. They don't take the meeting.
Believe me, I've been told
that can be a really hard practice. Yeah. How did you build, I don't know, the resilience, the mindset that, like, you got to just have the at-bats. You got to pick up the phone. You got to send an email.
Yeah, at-bats are really key in everything. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of people hide behind email. I'm not a huge fan of that. Nowadays, it's tough because people are working remote, and reaching them by phone is a little tougher, but persistence pays. And sure, you can be told no. So keep trying.
Yeah, keep trying, right? And just build resilience if people do tell you no. Well, are there any specific tips or tricks you'd have for someone who is maybe hasn't picked up the phone a lot before, but now wants to try that strategy and try to set up a meeting? What tips do you have for them?
The only tip is, it's practice, like anything. You're going to fumble. The first time I was in the disability community, which was 15 years ago, I didn't really know the right words, but I listened. People taught me. I asked a ton of questions, and it's okay to pick up the phone and say you don't know something. Okay. Hey, we want to enter XYZ market. This is the information that we know. Can you help us navigate, through our market entry? We're here to help. You don't have to have all the answers, and it's okay to be a little bit vulnerable too. So the hardest part is actually doing it.
Yes. I think it was, there's this expression, practice makes perfect, but that I think is actually not true. And was it Vince Lombardi that said,
right, perfect practice makes perfect.
Makes perfect. Bingo. And I remember, we've done work together with Team Game and Ascend. And one of the things I found so valuable, I'll never forget, we did like role plays around presentations, and you just, and it was that act of practice and getting feedback that made, me and the team I was working with feel much better. But
yeah, also just, there's a saying, don't let perfect be the what's fill in the blank. Don't let perfect be the,
Don't let perfect be the enemy of great, or something like that.
Yeah, just do it. It's okay. You can make a mistake. We're human. Humans make mistakes.
Oh man. Well, Rick, you had such a successful career at Centria, growing the organization, expanding access to services, building really strong relationships with payers. Walk me through that journey. Like, what was the secret to your sauce, and what was most challenging?
Getting back to the theme we kicked off with is building relationships. And I will tell you that the growth, rapid growth from 1 to 10 states is not something that you do alone. There's just no way that happens. It's an incredible team that worked really, really hard in a very difficult field, as you know. And it was vision of the CEO and just a lot of hands on deck. To get to that size, you go to 3,000-4,000 people within an organization, and you need to all be on the same page. So to be a part of that was something very, very special in my life. And again, I go back to it's about the relationships, not just internally with the team that you have, but it's building these external relationships in the communities in which you serve. I think that probably the biggest challenge is very similar to what the challenges that many ABA providers have today, and that's just clinical hiring. It's tough. It's a tough field. I haven't found one in all the work that I've done. Haven't found one provider that said, well, we have way too many RBTs and we have way too many BCBAs. I haven't seen that yet. So if anyone out there does, give me a call. We can help them out.
Drop us a comment. Yes, please. Because I want to know that answer too. So like 1 to 10 states, Rick, that's extraordinary. And I think for most providers who are operating in one state, maybe even just one part of a suburb or a city, it can feel so daunting having to build new relationships and just like everything that has to go on. Like, tell me a little bit more. Like if you're thinking about going to a new state, like what's going through your head? What should providers be thinking about?
Well, I don't know if am I allowed to say this, that they can call Team Game Advisor.
Absolutely. Yes. We will make sure there is a link to Team Game Advisors because this is part of exactly what you do.
I think there's a lot of work that goes into it. Some providers will, if a BCBA moves, they'll set up shop wherever that BCBA goes and then build an infrastructure to support that person in XYZ part of the country. There's others that are more strategic that really want to focus on intra-state growth, which is always a fantastic opportunity because the contracting, same, credentialing, you're bringing on new folks, but you're working within the same system. And so it's a quicker road to market. And some just say are more opportunistic. Legislation changes in North Carolina, let's say, okay, now we're going to plant a flag in North Carolina. So it just varies by whatever the operator and whatever the company is looking to do.
Right on. Your favorite expression, Rick, is that success is a team game. And that's what you've named your consulting practice.
Yeah.
After. What do you mean by that?
First of all, I was shocked that there was not a company called Team Game Advisors. My whole life has been on a team, part of a team. Like I said before with Centria, it was an amazing team that we had. But what I mean is that success is never accomplished alone. It takes people to lift you, to guide you, to mentor you, support you, encourage you, and no one ever got to where they are. Take anybody at a CEO level of any company anywhere in the world, they got help from somebody along the way. Okay. And so as we grow in our careers, A, we should always be seeking advice from others. And B, we should always be available to mentor and to guide and to support and offer ourselves up to the next generation that's coming through the pipeline. So it's team game.
It is. That's such a humble attitude, right? Especially in a day and age where it's, I don't know. It feels like it's easy just to say, I'm going to go this alone individually. And I just try to do my thing. I really like how you describe, there's almost an obligation, right? Go help others. Cause you are 100% right. We have all gotten help and support and guidance.
Yep. And we're lucky to have those networks. Not everybody has those networks.
Well, and I particularly appreciate how giving you are. You know the power of like making introductions and helping others connect. That just leads to great things happening for the world, for our field, for you, for organizations you work with, et cetera. But thinking about the power of relationships, Rick, you've described, I've heard you describe relationships are like a gateway. Tell me more about that.
Well, they are, and they open up opportunities. Can I start by sharing a kind of a funny story? It's how we got into our goal at Centria. We're looking to get into California, and we entered California by way of New Mexico. So here's the story. Again, built on relationships. My cousin is a dog walker in the East Bay in San Francisco area. And when I shared that I was starting with Centria and, perhaps looking to go into California, he said, hey, there's a guy on my team, my hockey team, my beer league team, who's the CEO of Blue Shield of California. Do you want me to introduce you? Like, of course. So he made the introduction, and I had a call with the CEO, Paul Markovich, who's a really nice guy and apparently a really good hockey player. And we had a great conversation. He said, I want to put you in touch with somebody else. Well, 3 or 4 meetings later, I got connected with Tim Crilly, who was at Magellan at the time. So my wife and I are on vacation in Southern California. I had a window of time, and I said, I'm just going to call Tim. Tim met me for breakfast. And from that point, he said, I'll tell you where we really need help, and that is in New Mexico. Legislation changed. There's not a lot of providers. Can you help us? And sure enough, the short story is we ended up going there, and it's been a remarkable market. We were welcomed with open arms. And to this day, Tim is my friend and an amazing guy. And so that's the power of the relationships. You never know how things are going to go. I have so many of those. That's just one I want to share.
Yeah. That's how the relationship world works. I mean, a dog walker, and all of a sudden you're into 2 new states. But here's I think something really important for listeners is that it might sound like, yes, serendipity that conversation happened. There are probably 100 other conversations you were trying to start and that you were having. And that's sort of the planning and the intention that it takes in building your network, right? It's not just like hoping for the one serendipity. You got to create your serendipity by going out and talking to people and picking up the phone.
Yeah, and it's okay to not know everything. Okay, you don't have to be a subject matter expert on everything. It's okay to ask questions. People like when you ask questions, right? If you're looking for advice, as long as they're well thought out questions. But I think generally speaking, people are willing to help. And the more that you can sort of laser focus on the people that you're serving, it's less about you and it's more about, serving people. And so in our field, we're lucky to be able to do that. So I think people generally are willing to help.
We do have a very helping field. And one technique I like to use, so I want your feedback on this, and then give me a technique that you like, is in calling someone up, just saying, hey, I know you're an expert in this. I'd be really honored to get your advice. Can we have a 15-minute phone call so I can learn from you, garner your wisdom? And I feel like 9 times out of 10, because of our field and because we are helpers at heart, people pick up the phone. People are willing to have conversations. I don't know. What do you think? Is that the right approach? What's your feedback?
100%, Jonathan. You're spot on. That's exactly right. It's funny in the fund development space, nonprofit. I've had half of my career in the nonprofit sector, and fundraising is a part of that. Fundraising for mission-driven organizations, and a lot of times with a particular donor, the best entryway is to ask for advice. It's a great way. It's much better than asking for money, but it leads to that. And so there's certain people are willing to give advice for sure. So don't be afraid to ask.
Right on. And you were executive director, right, at the food bank. In Detroit. Is that right?
Yeah, I was the CEO of one of the oldest and largest food banks in the country in Metro Detroit. I was also the CEO of an organization called JARC that works with people with developmental disabilities and supported living and housing in the community. And was also a chief advancement officer for the Cranbrook Educational Community, which is a National Historic Landmark educational institution, and helped raise $150 million towards a variety of things, scholarships, building. Amazing. I've had this crazy career, haven't I, Jonathan? Completely not linear.
Well, it's like you're saying, like, you're not living a dream, like you're living your own dream.
Totally.
That's powerful, right?
I'm very lucky.
And what I'm hearing is, like, in nonprofit, in fundraising and nonprofits, building relationships happens the same way that it does in our ABA field or in for-profits. It's being willing to just ask for advice, to try to open doors, to pick up the phone. But at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. And one thing I know about you, Rick, is you're just off the chart in just like high integrity and kindness in our field. And you used to mentor me to say, like, there are no accidents on the high road. What does that mean?
So for me, it means, and I don't know that I can coin that. I maybe read it somewhere, but I certainly try to live by it. I think, integrity and transparency, honesty, humility are really the foundations that, for me, and I think for many others, is the foundation for leadership and success. And if you follow those principles, you're essentially staying on the high road. Look, there's some people that say, if somebody goes low, then you go lower. Okay. I completely don't agree with that. And, are there potholes on the high road? There are, but there's very few accidents. Just take the high road. It's so much easier being nice than it is not nice. Okay. And that's what I mean by that. Take the high road all the time.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And then we have, like, at the end of the day and on our deathbed, we have our integrity, right?
Yep.
That we can cling to.
What do they say? Integrity is who you are when no one's looking. Isn't that the phrase? Like that.
I think that's exactly the phrase. And I think Tony Dungy, if I'm not mistaken, was he,
good one. Coach of Indianapolis.
And Indianapolis, indeed. What advice do you have for an ABA business owner or leader who's thinking about growing their practice, Rick?
Can I say call us again? Sorry. I'm saying it a little tongue in cheek. The first question I would ask is the why question. Why do you want to grow? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? Okay. And there's no real right answer to that. Okay. Some strategies are built around goals of expansion, as I said earlier, sort of intrastate. Some are, we just want to land grab. Okay. I'm not saying that's a bad strategy. There's some providers that actually want to do that. But, the question is why? And I cannot overstate enough, and I know you know this, Jonathan, is that at the end of the day, clinical quality rules. Okay? If you do not have that clinical quality buttoned up, then you're going to be in trouble. Okay? Because at the end of the day, that's got to be your calling card. Never lose sight of that. And the other thing is never lose sight of keeping the people that we serve at the core of every decision that's made. Okay. And I would also argue that people we serve are also our employees. Okay. Very, very important. That's what our decisions should focus on. not a huge fan of the word client, not consumer, depends, I've heard both. They're people. They're people we serve. That's who it is. So, I maybe didn't answer your question totally, but my first questions would be why and what are you hoping to accomplish? And then let's put a plan together and a strategy to make that become a reality so you can be successful.
That's powerful, Rick. Especially that idea of asking like why, right? And being clear about that. And what I find that does is it provides clarity. I mean, certainly to yourself, but you can start to evaluate specific decisions you're making, whether it's investment decisions, timeline decisions, whatever it is, you can evaluate that against the why. And then you bring your stakeholders along, right? It's to your point, you bring along your team, payers, community partners, whomever it might be. That why is critical to guiding it. And yes, amen, brother. Thank you for highlighting that. The reason we do what we do is about kids.
Right. I've always been impressed with how you and Will have built Ascend. Is, you said we don't need to be the biggest in the world, but we're going to be the best at what we do. And our team is going to love what they do and working with us. And so I tip my hat to you guys because you get it.
Thank you, Rick. Rick, what's one thing that every ABA business owner and leader should start doing and one thing they should stop doing?
Okay. So what they should start doing immediately is to build a bench. Okay. If you're going to grow, even if you're not going to grow, you need a really strong bench. Who do you have that's going to replace the person that's going to get a promotion? And you need to work that now. You should have one or two people in the hole ready to come through the ranks for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is they understand your culture, they believe in it, and it's a career path. Okay. Turnover in our field is tough. When people feel that they're a part of a career path, they're going to stick around. So that's what I would say, number one. And number two is build great stakeholder relationships. Okay. And what do I mean by that? When I say a stakeholder, I mean payers, universities, referring clinicians, experts in the field, advocacy groups, influencers, thought leaders. There's an opportunity to develop a communication plan for each of those stakeholders. Okay. That's what should be done as part of your growth, and think of yourselves as being in not just in a community, but of a community. Okay. Think about this. Depending upon the market, your catchment area, lack of a better word, but your catchment area could be only 10 miles. Okay. If you're building solid relationships in that 10 miles, then you're going to be the go-to provider and everybody's going to love working with you because now you're of the community. And as you expand, that 10 miles goes to 20, 30, 40, 50 as you begin to branch out and reach. Next thing you know, you have owned, if you will, a region, a state, a slice of the country and the country. So never forgetting, you got to be the best clinically. And otherwise that'll never happen. So again, as you grow, your impact of influence grows. That's the start doing. What I would stop doing, I'm going to turn it into a start. Can I do that?
You can do whatever you want, Rick.
Okay. I would say stop thinking as a singular, I'm preaching to the choir here, so forgive me, but stop thinking of yourself as a singular provider of applied behavior analysis, and instead start thinking about taking a holistic approach to the people that we're serving, the children and families that we serve. That means obviously OT. In some cases, PT might be good, but OT, speech, social work, and begin to make great connections with specialty practices that understand working with kids with autism. Pediatric gastro, pediatric dentist, pediatric ophthalmologist. Okay. You should be the go-to so that when you're serving a family, you have a relationship already built that they can stay within your world. Nobody's doing that. There's a huge opportunity to do that. So my stop is, don't think of yourself just as a provider of ABA. Push it out and think of what's best holistically for the child and build that interdisciplinary team to support the families.
Mm-hmm. What's best holistically for the child? There's such wisdom in that, Rick, because look, I mean, what's the statistic around, is it 50% of kiddos with an autism diagnosis have a second diagnosis, right? Comorbidities. In fact, check me on that. But the point is, there's a profound number of needs that child has that extend beyond ABA and that the family has. And I think what I'm hearing you describe is, if you're not meeting, or at least thinking about collaborating with others to meet those needs, and you're only being the hammer to the nail of this whole world's a nail, and I'm an ABA provider, that's missing out on maybe solving the broader range of challenges that a child and a family might have.
And we know parents need help. They need help. Okay. And to the extent that we as professionals can help them in their journey with trusted referrals, then you just get better outcomes. And oh, by the way, insurance providers will love it.
Yes, indeed. The quality of the therapeutic relationship, as I'm fond of saying, is the biggest predictor of treatment success, in my experience. Right on. Wisdom to live by. Those are some things to start and stop doing. Rick, tell me about your entrepreneurial journey with Team Game and the services you provide.
It's been a great journey. My wife and I started 2.5 years ago, Team Game Advisors, and we're really serving those either PE-backed, VC-backed, or privately held providers grow and scale their business. And that's half of our business. The other half is in the nonprofit sector. We've worked with an orphanage in Zambia that grows coffee for a 300 chain store in throughout the Midwest, build a coffee making, solar power, and so forth. So we've worked on the nonprofit side as well, but essentially we're working with ABA providers to grow and scale their businesses. And when I think of that, I think there's really two prongs to that. One is creating the demand for the services that you're about to provide, and also building that infrastructure, organizational infrastructure to meet that demand. And so that's really what we do. We've gotten into the tech space, which is really interesting. One of the clients we're working with now is Angel Sense. It's the only two-way voice communication GPS tracker that was designed originally for kids with autism that elope, and the results are just incredible. It saves lives, and so we're now in the tech space as well. So it's been an amazing run, and I love working with my wife. And from time to time, we'll bring in some extra folks when we need some help.
Well, and full disclosure, audience, Ascend are the proud beneficiaries of more than a year of work that we did with Rick and Dana. It was phenomenal work. I got to tell you, Dana, your wife, who is just extraordinary. She's a former prosecutor, right? And they say stereotypes exist for a reason. I mean, she is just she is on it. She's just so much fun to work with too. And you see that prosecutor come through, and she just makes things happen. So you guys are quite the dynamic duo, Rick.
It was a lot of fun for sure.
Look, I know you're a huge baseball fan like I am. So 2 quick questions on this. The first is, what is the greatest baseball moment that you've had in history? Greatest baseball memory.
caught me kind of off guard here, but that's okay. I would say my greatest memory was playing in college in the Cape Cod Baseball League. So it was a tremendous part of my life. It was 1981, the year of the baseball strike. And so playing on Cape Cod in a league that, today, I guess maybe then, 50% of the amateur draft, the June draft, has played in the Cape League. So it was just a great experience. I was not one of those draftees, and instead chose to enter the workforce and got married. So I guess that would have to be it. It was an amazing summer.
I can only imagine, Rick. And I got to say, I will not disclose your age. You're not 18 years old, but you are maybe you're like an Adonis in the most amazing shape. If I were to try to do a 5K against you, or like swim against you, or have a tennis match, you would wreck me. It's like really, and you still play adult wooden bat. Is that right?
I
baseball,
do.
where you pitch and you'll get squat and you'll catch and take the lumps and everything else.
Yeah, it's still fun. I enjoy it. And yes, I'm 61. No worries there. But if we were to probably do a mountain climbing competition, I think you'd crush me.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll have to schedule those just so we can hang out. Well, how is baseball, Rick, like the ABA field?
I love this question. I guess my first thing is, if you can't hit a curveball, then you're pretty much screwed. You'll never succeed because our lives in this ABA space are constant curveballs. Needing a strong bench with different skills. I think there's quite a great commonality there. In baseball, you get 3 strikes in performing the services that we do. I wouldn't say you get 3 strikes. You're lucky if you get 2 strikes, but they're part of the game. There's no walks in ABA. There's no freebies. It's a hard field, man, and you got to work for everything that you get. I think it's really hard to be good at. That's probably a comparison to the two. If you're batting 375 in baseball, you're amazing. You could be a Hall of Famer. If you're batting 375 in this field, you're out of business fast. Okay. Let's see. Errors happen both ways. Own them and own them. So on a baseball field, you make an error, there's kind of nowhere to hide, right? You're out there all alone. I would say strong leadership and culture of winning are contagious and keys to long-term success, I think, in both fields. And I think teamwork is imperative, and thus I'm going to say it's success is a team game. I had to say that. So. But those are some likenesses. As I'm talking, I'm thinking, is there anything on a baseball, number of stitches, bases? I don't know, but those are just a couple.
That was an extraordinary list, Rick. I'm impressed. I got to say, and part of my thesis that all of life is like baseball. But
amen.
That's a whole separate podcast.
I totally agree with you, Jonathan.
All right, Rick. Well, throw one question at me. Anything, doesn't matter, and to make me answer on the spot.
Okay. So you and Will, who I respect immensely, both of you guys, have built, I think, a winning organization on a lot of different levels. I want to know what the craziest idea you guys have ever developed that came to fruition besides starting an ABA practice. Okay, what's the craziest thing that you got, and what never materialized, or you did it and it just failed? So I guess I'm kind of curious about that.
Let me start with a failure because there are literally hundreds of examples of failure. And as I'm fond of saying, look, we're all going to fail. The key is, if you make a mistake, you got to learn from it. And as you point out with baseball, you got to pick up and go on. One of the things that we did very wrong early on was try to be everything to everyone. And what I mean by that is like serve all ages, provide services virtually like 24/7, Saturdays, Sundays, late at night. And here's what happened. Not only was that totally unrealistic and not sustainable for our teams, but when we gave that amount of just wide openness and choice in schedules to our families, it was almost like this paralysis of, well, what should I do and pick? And it was really hard. We didn't have that discipline around, hey, here's what we know in terms of dosage, in terms of the programs we're going to offer. Like, here's what we know can work. And this is what we do really well. And so, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Can we serve you? So I would say that's something we failed at and had to learn from. Gosh, what's the craziest idea that we had and that actually was successful? I will say, and this is a episode for another day because it's not played out, I think blockchain technology has so much, and Web 3.0 has so much to bring to bear to healthcare and to our field about patient privacy, about owning our own data, about being able to build applications on top of blockchains. But here's the thing, like, I haven't played any of that. That's all up in my head. So that doesn't count. But the craziest thing we did at Ascend, I would say that we made, I don't know if this is crazy, but here's where we made a huge bet. And this is, as a small business owner, you know this, you're placing some bets because you're hearing feedback from your clients, from your families. You're constantly listening and thinking, how can I improve our service? And so almost 2 years ago now, we made a bet that as important as ABA is, and we're an early intervention provider, and in-home across 3 states, as important as ABA is, we were missing something. And what we were missing is the mental health aspect and the family support, just wraparound set of supports that's critical to a family being, and a kiddo, frankly, being successful. And you actually introduced us to Elizabeth Nollenweg, LCSW social worker, whom we hired about 18 months ago as our VP of Care Integration. She's extraordinary, and she gets the world from a family's perspective in a way that's just, a slightly different scope of practice than the way a BCBA or ABA might think about the world, as being very data driven, very specifically focused on behaviors and skills. She thought about a more holistic approach to helping a family and provide one-on-one counseling, parent support groups, sibling groups, et cetera. Here's the thing is, like, we were talking to a lot of different providers and trying to get feedback, and like, no one was doing this. So we literally were like, I think we're crazy. What the heck are we doing? The rest is history, as they say. She's been extraordinary. She's built this amazing team. And, but that's, I'd say, what the craziest thing that we did.
All right.
Fortunately, it worked.
Those are both great answers. So thank you.
Well, and another power of what you do, Rick, is you have this Rolodex that's just extraordinary, and you make connections, and we've been the beneficiary several times over of those connections. So thank you for that. All right. Well, before we go to our hot take, where can people find you on social media? Right.
Our webpage is teamgameadvisors.com. I do have a LinkedIn page, Rick Loewenstein, on LinkedIn. And that's pretty much it. Don't spend a ton of time on Facebook. And most of the work that we get is just from word of mouth and relationships.
Just like our field. Right?
Yeah, and relationships.
Bingo.
So, but, LinkedIn, I'm not as active as you on LinkedIn. I have a lot to learn in that space, but catch us anytime.
Cool. Well, there will be a link in the show notes to how you can get in touch with Rick and Dana. So, okay, Rick, are you ready for our hot take questions? Rapid fire. It's going to be short, quick answers.
Great.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're on your deathbed. What's the one thing you want to be remembered for?
Can I say, like, if I win the lottery or something like different like that?
Sure, yeah, deathbed. That's morbid. If you won the lottery, what's the one thing you want to be remembered for?
Well, maybe those are two different. So I'll go back to the deathbed. I would say I was a person of integrity and humility. I raised a great family with my amazing wife. and that I was a guy that put his family first. So at the end of our lives, what do we have two things I know for sure. Okay. One are the experiences that we've had in our lives and the relationships that we've made along the way. End of story.
Boom, mic drop. What's your most important self-care practice, Rick?
Playing sports.
Nice.
That's it.
If you could cancel all meetings and skip all your responsibilities for a day, how would you spend the day?
On the water. And I will say this. So several years ago, I started taking my birthday off. Okay. I thought people that did that is completely dorky. Then I did it. It's the most amazing thing that everyone should do. Okay. It's like playing hooky, and it's like a great self-care day. It doesn't matter what you do. The fact is A, it's your birthday. Okay. Celebrate it. And B, go do something that you like. And the calls will be there the day after your birthday. Take it.
Oh, I'm going to do that for my next birthday, Rick.
That's the best.
Beautiful advice.
It's the best.
All right. Best Madonna song ever.
Lady Madonna, I would say the Beatles. For sure.
The Beatles?
I don't know any Madonna songs. That's terrible.
That's fair. So
that's why I say, how about Lady Madonna?
I like
the Beatles.
By the Beatles.
How's it?
I'm gonna go listen. I don't think I've even heard that Beatles song. So now I'm gonna go listen to it.
I'm not gonna sing it.
If you could give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say a couple of things. One, dream big, work hard, and above all, never give up. I would say persistence pays. I would say if you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes. That's something as you go through your career. And I would say always follow up with a thank you note.
And I know for a fact you like to write personal on that, and that there's something magical and special about getting a thank you note from Rick.
Totally old school, Jonathan, but it's
I love it.
It's pretty impactful. and I think, when you talk about the relationship piece that we've talked throughout this, any new person that you meet or one that you follow up, it's a great way to be remembered. Okay. I cannot tell you how many phone calls I've gotten recently over the course of or connections that were made because I sent a thank you note.
Well said.
Thanks.
All right. Last one, Rick. You can only wear one style of footwear for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Bare feet. Bare feet or sandals, but I'm going with bare feet.
Yes. Oh man. It's the sand through the toes.
Oh yeah.
So good.
That's a good one.
Hey, Rick, it has been an amazing honor and privilege chatting with you. Thanks for taking the time.
Becca, I really appreciate it. Keep up the great work. Good luck with the podcast. And I know that the people that you serve are lucky to have an organization like you. So keep up the great work. And again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks for listening to Building Better Businesses in ABA podcast. Stay tuned for our next exciting episode. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. We value your feedback. Don't forget to follow us on social media at elementrcm.ai.